Hello, and welcome again to yet another episode of the Dweebz in Japanese. I'm one of your hosts, Khalil.
I'm one of your hosts, Patrick.
Hey, Patrick, how you doing? What do we, you want to talk about that Darker Than Black episode? Before we
Yeah.
kick things off?
Yeah, a lot happened. It was, again, it started to feel like a typical show that's, a series that continues. And we met this new dude who was, getting comfortable with the exchange students.
Yeah.
And he apparently is like, the mob. I guess he's just an employee at the club,
He
the
seems
girls'
pretty
bar
low.
or whatever, girls' club. And he what?
Yeah. I said he seems like low on the ladder.
He's very low on the ladder, very much kohai.
Yeah.
Kind of little
Kohai
brother
vibes.
type of thing. Aniki. And like the mob boss or whatever, like the yakuza or whatever dude who owns it. And this is actually kind of a lot of those places, like a lot of the casinos, like the pachinko places, and these girls bars and whatever, because they just litter Japan, are owned by these type of people.
Interesting.
Like these yakuza bosses with like the weird tiger print, in the back and stuff. Which is like actually the case. So like they do business in Japan, but that's the kind of businesses that they typically do. It's like,
I see.
yeah, I can kind of see that here too with the casinos. There's, typically people who are like willing to do probably more than the average person to make a quick buck. Probably own casinos, that type of thing.
Maybe.
It's a little more complicated, but
yeah. It's interesting. I didn't realize that was a thing.
Yeah, it's yeah, and it's like really intertwined with bigger businesses in Japan, and like it's kind of interesting. After basically like the World War, they kind of just in time, I think they kind of became part of the largest companies in Japan have. It's weird, like with the politicians and stuff. Apparently, that's how they kind of like are integrated with these, like not crime syndicates necessarily, but like these big bosses and stuff. I don't know specifically, so I don't want to talk too much on it. Like
That's
I
okay.
know a lot, but I
It's
remember
not the
like
main topic, so that's,
I remember
okay.
studying it. It was really interesting. So I go look it up, like yakuza and like sort of organized crime and larger businesses in Japan. Because a lot of them, you would just see them on the street and you think they're like regular, salaryman or salaryman or whatever. And then, they roll up their sleeves and they just got like tons, like completely covered in tattoos.
Huh.
And they're, they do shady stuff behind the scenes. But it's funny because a lot of them are kind of tamed, quote unquote. Recently in later years, but it used to be a huge thing. And but yeah. Anyways, so that guy was like kind of part of that. Like he's running a huge business, but he's also sort of shady. And and that they would who were they beating up again? I forgot.
It was that
beating
guy
up some dude who was like coming into the bar or whatever, and not really an important character. Yeah, but it showed their relationship, their dynamic, and that
he
dude
looks up to Aniki
and the doll thing, and then Ototo or whatever his name is, I forgot. He is very confused about what to do with this girl, this doll, quote unquote. They're trying to figure out. He's trying to figure out near the end there if Hay can help him.
Mm-hmm. I guess that's all he has.
Sort of just a setup episode.
Yeah, there's a lot of character interactions in that.
Yeah, to set up the new character, then to set up the doll concept, and they're selling the doll as a product, but I wonder if she is also like Udine, right? Udi? I forget her name. I think it's sorry, Een. And the other like dolls, the ones with the powers. I wonder if she's that or if she's something completely different, like grown.
Oh,
or something.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
We'll have to find out next week, huh?
Yep. Stay tuned.
All right, let's talk about our latest news real quick. Why don't you start off, Patrick?
Sure. Yeah. What is the latest news? I have been just kind of chugging along as normal. I don't really have anything super noteworthy to talk about other than it is very hard to get into that book that I was reading, only because I'm just like reading so many
Psychopaths?
things. Yeah, because I haven't made time through the day. And then like recently has been so busy. So trying to go read it before bed has been like tough. So it's something I need to fix. I know, but I need to figure out when during the day can I prioritize it. Because it's not really a priority for me. So it feels like more like study for me than it does fun. And if I'm at that point, I don't really want to try super hard. Because I have more important things I'm focusing on right now. So, but I continue on Ikani. I really want to get through this level 57 because it's been kind of longer than the Wanikani is estimating.
Stringing it along.
So, yeah, get through that and then get to level 60 and then sort of just like coast through my reviews. And then I'll pick up more content seriously. And that'll be kind of like my replacement for Wanikani is just doing a lot of reading.
I see.
But yeah, it's just hard to find like time throughout the day to read that. But I still read a lot of Japanese through like talking with Judy, and my phone is in Japanese, obviously, so I read a lot of Japanese just naturally. But as far as like those kind of fantasy words and more novel words, not as in new words, but as in words that you see in novels and books and stuff.
Yeah.
That's been good. Like every single time I pick up a book and try to read it, I'm learning like a bunch of new words, and then I've seen them used differently and stuff. So it's really good practice and whatnot. But yeah, I just make myself really busy, so I have to figure out where that fits into my schedule, and without forcing it, right? So
yeah, that's the important part.
Yeah. What about you?
I haven't had too much going on. This week has been it's been all right study wise. I've been kind of slacking a little bit. Been having a brain overload just with stuff from work, so it's like hard to keep cramming things in there.
You're like studying at work basically too.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So, there's been a lot of that this week, and then it's also been very hot here.
Yeah.
Just the whole week, and now we're heading into a heat wave, and it makes it even harder to think and to focus on things.
Yeah.
We don't really have ACs here in Washington, so
because they're not
used to this.
They're not used to that type of weather. Like, what is it? 110 degrees Fahrenheit in Celsius. What even is that in Celsius? I think it's probably like probably around 50 or something. 1 second.
It's around
40 something.
I think so.
40.
It's because 37 is body temperature.
Oh, sorry, 43. 120. Okay. Wow. So Thailand gets up to like 50 degrees Celsius.
Why?
Which is insane. So bad. With humidity.
No.
It's like 100. What even is that? It's like literally death. It's 122 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, because like Tokyo will get up to during the summer, 36 to 38 on a really hot summer. And it's hot. It's really humid. but 50 degrees Celsius, 122 degrees Fahrenheit. That's and with humidity in like, Thailand and or not Thailand. Well, yeah, in Thailand and then other places like.
That's so hot.
India and other places. Yeah, that's just insane. That's just stupid hot. That's like really dangerously hot.
Yeah, especially for places that aren't used to it.
Despite that, people are like super happy and chill and like very friendly for the most part. But I bet people are. But that's the thing is like a lot of people go visit these places in the summer and then say like everybody's not really doing anything. Well, the reason they're not doing anything is they can't do any they can't move without overheating.
Yeah.
So that people just like kind of chill out and then just deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be terrible when, like, Seattle. I don't know how people debate climate change, honestly, because being from Seattle, I've never experienced 110 degrees. Albeit we're young, but still, I don't think anybody who asked my grandparents 110 degrees Fahrenheit in the Seattle area, which is a temperate climate. That's insane.
It is.
That's
insane.
Stupid.
It's more frequently too. Like
it's more frequently, yeah.
Higher.
I feel like every year is hotter and hotter there, and it's crazier. Like the weirdest weather, crazy snow, which they don't never get snow in the Puget Sound area because of the water. But we're getting like 4 feet, not 4 feet, but like at least a foot a year now, which is crazy.
Snowstorms.
2 weeks of, you remember that snowstorm?
Yeah, that was insane.
That like 2 weeks snowed out. We couldn't do anything. We couldn't even leave our apartment building because they were so slow to get the salt on the roads and the roads cleared. I hope they have it figured out now because
I would hope so.
It's probably more frequent now. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's made it hard.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm still moving along. So I've still been doing. I haven't been doing as many new words, but I'm still keeping an eye out for wild words, and I have a couple to share later.
Sweet. Actually, yeah.
That's the next thing we're gonna do.
Yeah, I think the thing about Wanikani versus other things is that there's a number that you have to do of your reviews, right? And it's constantly going up the more time passes. So you feel like an obligation, this sort of ticking time bomb, where you have to keep that number down.
It puts pressure on you.
It puts a little pressure on you every single day because you know it's just going to go up and up and up.
That's a nice thing too.
Yeah. Well, what's nice is that it seems to, like the SRS stuff, it doesn't really overwhelm you necessarily. Like it usually, will add like maybe 50 or something like that to your queue from previous levels or whatever. And so you'll get to like 100 and something reviews or maybe even 200, but it doesn't like overwhelm you. You can do that still in like an hour and a half or whatever if you're just like deliberate about it.
Yeah, so, I've cleared through like 110 reviews. I timed it. It took me only like 20-25 minutes to do it. So,
but it's like solid focus. So
it is. So it feels a lot longer.
It feels longer. Yeah.
And then you only have so much of that solid focus in a day too. I've noticed.
Right.
So yeah, sometimes doing that is just like I'll just do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Kind of a feeling.
Yeah, I felt that the Wanikani thing, like right now I have 108 reviews, which is too much for me. I usually like to keep it around 30-ish. But having it on my home screen, now the problem is I used to have like a clean home screen, and there was really basically just Wanikani with a badge notification, notification badge, and so it stuck out like a sore thumb. So every time I'd open my phone, I'd see it and be like, I need to get that down. But now I have like a bunch of apps doing little badges and stuff, which makes it a little bit easy to ignore.
Get your attention, yeah.
So I need to figure that out. I need to go I hate managing notification settings on my phone. It's just stupid, but I'll have to go do that because I really don't want to knock those down more. I've been really kind of bad at doing lessons recently because I've been kind of focusing on reviews. So.
Oh yeah, because you have so many of them.
Yeah. All right, moving on to your favorite words that you want to talk about because they look good. They look like goodies here.
Good looking words, man.
Good looking words. Hey, good looking.
Well, what's cooking?
What's cooking? Good looking.
To me, I'm roasting. All right.
On
Are you gonna show the page still?
Oh, right. Thank you.
Yeah,
we're now doing that.
We are in the next generation fantastic. Right now.
Yes.
And we will
next gen
advance.
Dweebz in Japanese. All right, here we go.
We have a lot too. A lot of kanji.
A couple. There's just a couple I want to talk about. But they're not new. Most of these are not new to me, but just something I want to talk about. One is new to me.
All right.
What you got?
Let's start with this first one. Bome. It's made out of death, the death kanji, and then I don't know what death. I don't know the second one. I've never learned it. Could you tell us?
Yeah, it's life or lifespan or something like that.
Death, life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Death and life, yeah. Life and death, maybe?
So that means like exile.
Exile?
Or emigration. It's like leaving.
Emigration, leaving. Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting. So like a death.
Where did you learn that?
Of your old life, and I learned it from a song.
Oh. Huh.
It was in the name.
Which song?
Hold on. It's the thing is Bome no ko. Hold on, I literally forgot.
The exiled kid.
It's interesting because I think it's a Japanese artist, so the titles have like an English part and a Japanese part, and I always thought it was just a translation, but it's not always a translation.
No, it's not always. It's almost never a translation. It's like almost always just weird, like artsy fartsy.
Well, in this case,
they think it's cool.
They think it's cool. No, in this case, it mostly was translation. That's what threw me off.
Oh,
because I remember the song. The English song was called "Breath" or "Castle Ballad." So I was looking for those words in that, and no. The Japanese version is called Koruchaku, which is a person. Koruchaku to Bome. So like cortex.
Bome.
Cortex, yeah. And like exile. It's a real person. I don't know much about him though. He's a Polish educator, apparently.
Bome?
Bome.
So that's the name of the song.
Yeah. Well, both of those names. Breath or Castle Ballad, and then there's a dash. Korizaku to Bome. That's the whole thing.
Okay, interesting.
Huh. Yeah.
You should definitely add that to the document so we can add that link to the song to the description.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll throw that in right quick.
Your next
second word's also from that same artist.
Oh.
The song was called Kusa no Hakubune.
Kusa no Hakubune.
Yeah, it's the grass art.
So, yeah.
And then I had that part in English, so I was seeing if those were the same translations, and it was like a literal one. So
nice.
Yeah, it's made out of a weird reading for direction that I guess neither of us knew, right?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Hako. It's normally pronounced ho, kata. What else? Gata. Kata.
Gata or bowl. Like depends on if it's being rendaku or not. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Bowl. And then hune, which is pronounced bune.
Yeah, that's the rendaku happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hakubune. Hune is ship, by the way, or a boat.
Yeah. Hune, and then if you type this in on Google, you get the video game Ark. Just so you know.
Yeah, that's funny.
If you're wondering, yeah.
Ark is like a big wooden boat, typically.
Yeah.
Like old big wooden boat. Yeah.
Most people. Yeah. A good amount of people should know about that. If you've ever seen Narnia, you'll have an idea. Okay, and next word is from the Dark and Black anime. Kankei. I hear that all the time, like Kankei nai.
Yeah. Kankinai, yeah.
I guess it means like connection, and I don't know either of these kanji.
Yeah. Kankinai. So kanke is the first. So ke is a system, and kan I think is gate. I actually don't remember the meaning, like the literal dictionary meaning of that. I think it's like gate or something. One second. I don't remember exactly. Kanke is a really common word though. Super common word. Kankesu. No. Yeah. So the first one is, connection, concerning gateway, barrier. So connection, and then the second one is also connection. So connection. There are nuances, but kanke is really seen. Like that word kanke is really, really, really common.
I've heard of like, it's funny because it's one of those things where you hear a lot, but just for some reason now it stood out more,
Oh yeah.
Like sometimes different words just stand out more than, yeah.
Yeah. Kanke nai, really, really common. Kanke wa arimasen. Kanke aru kana? Like, I wonder if there's a connection. I wonder if there's a thread running through these things that are happening. Kanke nai. Yeah, really, really common word. I got some weird ones.
Yeah, let's see them. Sort of.
So the first one is Kyosan Shugi. So Kyosan Shugi is communism.
Oh, okay.
So you learned this in Wanikani too, I think. Actually, yeah, I'm positive you do. And it is always hard for me to remember for some reason. I think it's just because it's long.
Like it's hard for communism.
It's hard for me to remember during conversations. Because I'd be like, hey, this political thing, and then trying to bring that up, and it's hard to say like, oh, what's the difference between that and that? And for like conservative, I'll say hoshuteki. Hoshuteki is conservative. Hoshu is sort of like conserve or preserve. Hoshuteki is something you can use a lot. For communism, like kyosan shugi. Putting it here so I can remember it. Genshiro is a nuclear reactor. Or rather, just like a nuclear reactor or nuclear power. The ro part of it, the last part, genshi is like atomic, and then ro is like a furnace.
Oh, that
at the
makes
end.
Sense.
So yeah, like an atomic
furnace.
Particle furnace, yeah.
Yeah.
Third one down, yokemono or yokenamono is a person, basically like not really like a third wheel, not really welcome, not really welcome person. And yoke is like unneeded, unnecessary, too much, superfluous. I'm looking at the dictionary definitions just to explain it better. Yoke na koto is like basically stuff you don't need. Yoke na mono is a person, because mono can also mean person, not just stuff. Yoke na koto is like things that are unneeded, unnecessary. Yoke is like surplus, superfluous. Ii kage ni shiro is like cut it out.
Oh.
Yeah. It's really common phrase. Ikagen ni is also, you can say, but ikagen ni shiro is really, really common. Just basically stop it, cut it out. Nakineri is a word I didn't know, but I heard through Dark in the Black, and it's it means I had a feeling based on the context I knew what it meant, but I didn't know literally what it meant. And then looking it up, it's basically somebody who cries oneself to sleep, like giving up in frustration, being compelled to accept a situation, accepting meekly. So basically, that one guy, the Ototo or whatever, the guy with orange hair was talking to He or D and was telling him, are you just going to accept this like loud music being played? And he's like, because he was all polite and everything, sort of weak. So he's saying that, like he was nakineri, and that he needed to go like stand up for himself, basically. And so he went down, and then of course the Oba-chan came in and like said,
beat him.
Exactly.
Then they fixed the door and they all became friends. So if you ever want to make a friend, just break down a door.
Wise words from Chloe.
All right, now let's see. There's a good old wall of shame words. Bring them out into the open. This is a new word, a new kanji. I recently learned. Let's see. We got a loiter and we got a weapon. So I think this is duty, maybe. Duty, yeah, or like service.
Mm-hmm.
I think service is a little more accurate. Is that? It's pronounced she, I think. Right?
Yeah, I think I always use duty. Duty? No, it's not she. So I don't think it is.
Is it?
Think of an animal.
Oh yeah, yaki. There we go.
Close.
Oh, yaku. There you go.
Yes.
Yaku. I don't know. I always think of sheep when I have to think of an animal, but this one is yaku.
Yeah, there's not too many yaks.
There isn't.
In one, it's always like sheep. Yep. Sheep. Oh, that's probably why you got confused, because you're thinking of an animal and then went to she. That makes sense.
Yeah, yaku. Yeah, I'll get there. It's a new one.
Yeah, yakuni tatsu.
Yakuni tatsu.
It's like to be of service, to be useful. Like yakuni tatta, like I had reason for being there. Like I helped. I was able to help out. Like yakuni tatta. Duty. And then tatsu is weird. It's like to.
So that's like stand
or set up. Or to it's just a phrase. Very, very common though. Yaku is used all the time. I think it's used in yakume as well, which is like your role, your function.
Whoa.
Yeah. So like I say that. Yeah, I say that to Judy all the time. She'd be like, "Thanks for paying for food or whatever." Be like, "Yeah, yakume nandakara." It's like it's my duty as your husband's my duty type of thing. So yakume, common, really, really common.
And I think this was on last week's, maybe. This is Sakka.
Yeah, Sakka. Yeah.
Sakka. Author. Because you make in your house. You make the book in your house. Like the old stereotypical image of clack, clack, clack,
Clickety click clack on the typewriter.
Got a best-selling novel.
Yeah.
How is every novel a best-selling novel anyway?
No idea.
What do you got?
If you sell more than one.
If you sell more than one.
Look at that. Do you recognize the first one?
Oh,
it's back, baby.
Is that the door hinge?
It's a hinge, yeah. Even you know. And that still hasn't come up in my reviews, unfortunately.
That's crazy. It's been a long time.
It's been like months. Yeah, months and months. So I must have 66 and 70 is not too bad. I'm just wondering why it's not showing up.
Right? You would think.
Yeah. The other one is new. That's why it's 50-50. It's Sakuran, and I think it means confused. And the first one is like mixed. Is the meaning of the first kanji mixed, or I think it might mean confused as well. But the second one is riot.
Riot,
so like a mixed riot or confused riot is just confusion. I think the meaning is confusion. But yeah, I just learned that, so obviously 50-50. Still working through it. I'll get there.
Not bad. All right. So next we are going to learn about personal pronouns.
Personal?
Personal.
Porpoise pronouns. All right, so yeah, I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about personal pronouns. A lot of people know what they are already, especially if you've been watching up until this point. But I thought it would be kind of good to, go back to the basics too.
Yeah.
Not necessarily have like a long series. I know that people like to go back and sort of talk about nuances of stuff.
Yeah, it's important to get the little refreshers.
And little refreshers, and just if you don't know this, if you do know this already, feel free to skip it. But if you don't, or if you just want to hear it refreshed, or maybe hear a new way to say something, keep listening. So obviously there is watashi, which means I. It's pretty neutral. It's pretty polite. It's typically, again, more polite, and the more polite something is, it typically, not necessarily, but it can sound sort of girlish or like sort of feminine. So watashi, for just like normal casual conversation, is often used by women, or atashi, which we'll probably get to later in the article. But and then, so here you see here, like, watashi wa nihonjin desu. This is either polite, which is desu, so polite. But it can, men and women can say watashi. That's fine. That's really fine. But another way to say that is like boku, which is sort of like a more like a male identity, but it's not quite ore. Ore is a little bit more like dude, guy type of feeling. It has more of like a more masculine type of feeling to it. Like if you go down here, yeah, watashi is pretty neutral. There's boku, and then there's ore, and then uchi. That's pretty female. Yeah, uchi is almost always female, or feminine.
Uchi?
And uchi, yeah. I don't know if you've heard that before, but that's really, really common. So like, uchi no kasugu ga, uchi is the kanji is inside, like.
Oh.
And I'm not sure what the etymology of that is, but
that is interesting.
It is pretty like a recent colloquial word. It's like Judy's grandma, for example, would never say uchi. At least not that unless they were being a little bit more, like using newer. I shouldn't say never. If they're using newer like Japanese versus using like older Japanese. Because language evolves. People didn't say fire for when something was cool 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
But now people say it all the time. Or lit. That's something that's like kind of old feeling now, right? Despite that, it's become like a normal word to say, and people don't even bat an eye when people say that. So that's an example of this type of thing, where uchi is more feminine, young women saying that, and even older women starting to say that. So. But yeah, boku and ore are more masculine. Boku is a little bit more soft, polite. Yeah, again, boyish feel. And then ore is more of like a strong masculine feel. Sometimes taken as vulgar. If you're, it's funny. Yeah, it's funny when like a little boy says ore, because it sounds just like they're trying to be cool or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then a man says it, they're just trying to be like. Man, it's just odd that your language changes based on how you want to project yourself as being. Like if you want to be super polite and you're a little bit shy, you'll either say watashi or boku for a guy, or if you want to identify as a guy, then you'll use those. But you change the way you speak. So I always say boku because it's easier for me to remember, and it's usually even like polite conversations, it's totally fine. Although if I'm with my when I was studying in college, I would use ore sometimes. And then Judy would always laugh if I try to use that So, I got like sort of self-conscious saying that. So I moved back to boku for everything just because it was sort of neutral, but also not, But my father-in-law always says ore. Always. And it's just, when you're learning Japanese, don't really worry about it too much. Like you can just say watashi. That's totally fine. You can say boku, or you can say uchi, or again, watashi is sort of feminine. Like informal situations is gender neutral and most common choice. Watashi is watashi is sort of elegant, stiff. And watashi is, I use it honestly as like sort of being facetious or just silly. Especially during like casual conversation, I'll just break it out and say watashi wa, and then Judy always laughs because it's like super, super formal. There's a bunch of different ways to identify yourself when you're speaking. Often I'll use like atashi. That's not in here, but atashi is very, very, very feminine, right? It's like a little girl or feminine woman, or just feminine in general, like atashi. This is a different. So anata is another pronoun, right? Historically, Japanese second person pronouns have always tended to lose politeness over time. And anata is sort of anata is more, it can, sorry, I dropped my phone. It can be considered impolite in certain cases. It's not like a bad word. I think that English is interesting. It all depends on the context and the tone. If you're saying anata, it sounds kind of harsh, but if you're saying anata no, like if you're soft in the way you say it, it's totally fine to use. Again, anata is like the standard choice in textbooks, just like watashi. Kimi, this is a really good point for the kimi. It definitely sounds like a condescending or snobbish thing to say now. In dictionaries and in textbooks and stuff like that, it means like buddy, and it has more of a friendly connotation to it. But in reality, when you're having conversations, kimi sounds like a little poke or like a punch in the shoulder type of thing, like kimi, like buddy, but it's also sort of condescending.
Oh, I see.
Like snobbish, like kimi, like what are you doing? Hey, cut it out, like type of thing. Kimi, ikage ni shiro. So, if you're saying that to somebody you don't like, you just met or something like that, you shouldn't use kimi. You should use like anata, or just use your name. Like Kariru-san, just use their name, or use like Okasa. So if it's like a person who's around the age of, or if you just want to be polite, and then always like underestimate, or rather estimate like they're younger than they actually are, then you use that. Like otou-san or oka-san for basically anywhere from 30 years old to 50 or 60 years old. You can probably say that.
Gotcha.
And so that's another, like, I guess, pronoun that you can use for somebody when you're talking to them. Also, omae, is also omae. Yeah, it's like so o, right, is the honorific, and mae is like before, like the person before you, in front of you. Mae also means front, right?
Yeah.
So the person who's in front of you, and then you're adding like the honorific. So you're saying that super amazing person in front of you or whatever. And obviously there's like, that kind of is sarcasm in a way. Like, oh my, like the person in front of me,
it's like very literal.
Queen or king or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a way to say, this person is very distinguished or whatever, but you're obviously being facetious.
Yeah.
When you're saying it.
Not in a good way.
Yeah. So often like guys will use ore and then omae at the same time.
Nice.
right? Because if they're being like super manly or
Ultimate,
whatever,
yeah.
they'll, you know, and then
It's the
they're
ultimate
being
combination.
funny or whatever, and then being sort of brash but also like confident. They use both.
Mm.
And with guys, this is like omae and ore. If you're just like talking friendly to people, you'll use it a lot, a lot, and you'll hear it all the time. And so if you want to try to use it, you know, especially if you're like more masculine or whatever, and you want to get buddy with Japanese people, that's the way to do it. If you're more feminine and you want to use atashi, I haven't seen this in the article quite yet, but atashi or watashi or uchi, this is more like common younger female, like literally Judy's age and younger use uchi a lot. Although her grandma started to use it too. I don't know when she started to use it, but and more feminine, like I think of like, you know, yeah.
You said Judy's
age and younger.
Thing, right?
It is a recent trend thing. And again, they'll use like the more polite forms of pronouns versus, but Judy's grandma used to use just in her hogen, which is her like accent, her way of speaking in Japan. Because there are accents in Japan, but it's mostly they use different words in different they say words differently, but it's mostly just using different words is how accents work in Japan. So her grandma would say "ome."
Ome. Instead of "omae."
Yeah, with her hogen, she'd say "ome" from like the other room. Ome, and that was her being like just normal speak.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't being, you know, brash or trying to be funny or anything. She wouldn't say anata. She'd just say ome. It's apparently what, you know, Judy was telling me. So it's kind of funny how things change.
Right.
Yeah, this is interesting. So kare kanaojo is really, really common. We're currently like fostering a dog right now, and so, you know, we'll say kanojo for our dog Bella, who's a girl, and for kare, obviously, we'll say him. And so, and this foster dog is a male, so we say kare and kanojo, right? Kare to kanojo.
Kare to kanojo.
So it's kind of, yeah, it's interesting. Kare is him or he, and then kanojo uses the same kanji.
Mm-hmm.
Just adds the woman to it. So it's almost like man and woman, right?
Oh, yeah.
Type of thing. You're just adding like a new part to it.
Mm-hmm. Whoa, man.
Koits, soits, ites. This is also really common. It's very casual. It's, yeah, right. So koits is like this guy, this dude. Soitsu is like that guy, that dude. Aitsu is that guy, that dude far away. Or somebody not as it, like somebody you're talking about who is not there. Mm-hmm. Right? So aitsu is you're talking about somebody, but they're not there. Soitsu is you're pointing to somebody like in the distance or whatever. Or even in like the group and you're just talking about some other person. Mm-hmm. Koitsu is like you're with that person you're talking about. Hey, you, damn you. Obviously it has more like casual feeling to it. Very common though. People use it all the time. And sometimes they use it just like as a joke, right? But again, a lot of these are, especially the koits, soits, ites. It sounds really rude if you're a woman saying this. If you're a man saying it, it just sounds like you're being funny.
Weird.
It depends on how you say it, though. Obviously, if you're really serious about it, then it sounds serious. But if you're just goofing around, then it's fine. But yeah, it's just the way you say it. It's jibun mo. This is weird. Yeah, so jibun mo so omoimasu. It's first person pronoun, but it means yourself, right? Mm-hmm. It can use also, yeah, and second person, but this is sort of like a Kansai dialect thing. It's not very common in the Kanto, which is the Tokyo region, right? But mama mo onaka suita yo. So you can also use your own name, which is kind of feminine. Like if you're talking, you don't have to say watashi, for example. It's a more feminine thing to say, for example, like Judy, my wife, she'll say, Judy mo onaka suita, like, or Judy mo ikitai. And it kind of sounds childish, honestly, more than like feminine. It sounds more childish. And mama mo onaka suita yo, it sounds like you're talking to the kid, right?
Yeah.
Mommy's also hungry. That's sort of like a kid speak, right? It's the same thing in English. But it sounds really weird if I say, Patrick is also hungry. Like, it sounds funny maybe in front of a group of people, and they're not really listening to me, and I say Patrick's also hungry, or Patrick also wants to go, type of thing, right?
Yeah.
Versus I want to go. But it's not necessarily like correct. Yeah. But in Sensei no hanashi kiite, Sensei no hanashi kiite, that's interesting. This is a interesting example because they're making it clear that you should listen to me, the teacher, but I'm the sensei. So you might say this: Sensei no hanashi kiite. Listen to what I'm saying, because I'm the teacher, sensei. Bokumago. That's yeah. So again, the child speak, it just like in English, it kind of gets weird. It's like boku is not me; it becomes the kid.
That's
yeah,
weird.
watashi ikutsu, because you're talking to a kid, and so they may not. It's like you're talking to a kid, and so you're kind of like using this pronoun in place of their name, right? And it depends on how you say it, right? Because there's a comma there, so like boku maigo, you're kind of like speaking for them,
Yeah.
You're like trying to get them to say the last part of the sentence, like continue the sentence, basically, right?
Interesting. I've never seen that.
Yeah.
That's
different. It's like lost. You're going up to a little kid and saying like lost. I'm lost. Again, in English, it's super weird, right? But I've seen and heard people do this where they go, like boku daijoubu? Boku no ashi itai? It's like you're speaking for them, but it's sort of a question, and then they'll respond. It's again used for kids. Not correct when talking to an adult. That's very weird. Very, very weird. And yeah, take the jibun as sort of a grain of salt. It's still see it and you'll still use, but you don't have to do what they're talking about, the Kansai dialect, unless you really want to speak Kansai dialect. I love the Kansai dialect. It's really cool. And
yeah, I remember you've asked me something using that before. You're
like, it's like Kansai dialect is really interesting because they had like nen or yanen or hen, which means janai.
Oh man, that's weird.
It's completely different. But based on the way you're saying it, even if you didn't know, you can kind of guess what they're meaning. But a lot of Japanese comedians are from the Kansai region, especially like Osaka and maybe even Kyoto and other places around Osaka. And I honestly think it's just because of like the weather, as well as it just like the culture down there is different than the Tokyo region. The Tokyo region seems to be a little bit more like it almost feels like Seattle, like this kind of Seattle chill, versus going down to some parts of the South, right? It's like it's not that far in distance. It is pretty far in distance, but I don't know if it's actually that far in distance. But I think it's easier for Americans to go to the Kansai region and feel more like they can make friends really quickly, because it's more sort of people are seemingly more friendly, right? Like people people in the Tokyo region are very, very polite and nice, but just like the Seattle chill type of thing, I think it's honestly all weather, but because when you go down to Kansai, it's like people are more loud and talkative and friendly, but people can also see that as being more rude. Like the Tokyo people think it's kind of rude and not very polite and not very, but then the Kansai people think that Tokyo people are too stuck up and
okay, it's one of those.
Like they think they're too important. It's like sort of the New York people and the California people type of thing. Actually, I think that's a better analogy. Kansai people are California, and then the Tokyo people are New York.
That makes sense. And does it have to do with because Tokyo is very fast paced, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And what about like Osaka? Is it not as
not as much? Yeah.
A little more lax.
Interestingly, too, it is more lax. Interestingly, too, I think that Osaka is, again, more like California because they love like hip hop. They love like street fashion and street art, and like I really want to go back to Osaka and skateboard because when I was there with Zach, we were obviously just tourists just going around and looking at stuff. But there's a lot of amazing skaters from Tokyo too. I love Tokyo, but I haven't been to Osaka or the Kansai region at all in a long time, so I really want to go back and then see it again because I was a beginner sort of Japanese speaker back then. So I think I could have a lot of fun. Judy and I want to go because the food is really good too. Obviously, like everything is fun and different. And Kyoto is like everybody loves Kyoto, regardless of where you're from in Japan. Everyone loves Kyoto because it's so old, and and it's traditional, and then everybody's super polite and super sweet. It's a lot slower pace than Osaka. Osaka is like a big metro area, right? The surrounding areas around Osaka. Well, obviously Tokyo's kind of bigger, but yeah, it's if you can go, anybody listening, if you can go to both, but stay like a week in both if you can, or just go twice, like stay in one place for 2 weeks and then come back and then go to the next place 2 weeks because they're both so good. Like anywhere around Japan is going to be interesting, honestly, just because it's all a bunch of islands and it's just so different. But yeah, it's as far as like learning Japanese though, you just learn what's in the textbooks or what you're learning online. You can use it anywhere. No one's going to expect you to speak like a Kansai dialect or whatever, or even a Kanto dialect. People are going to be really surprised if you just start speaking like Kansai dialect and you start throwing out the arigato, which is a sort of Kansai way to say arigato. And
I see.
They'll be surprised if you say nani shiten or nani yutten wakarahen. If you start saying this type of things, then people will be like, "Whoa, what? You're like some foreigners saying that." So you can try, obviously, and have fun learning a bunch, but don't worry about it if you're stressed out about it.
Because there won't be any problems communicating.
There won't be any problems
between those dialects, right?
No. People understand each other perfectly. Yeah. I will say that there are some dialects where people don't understand you though, and they have a hard time. And it's mostly like the older dialects, and then the older people who live in those areas that are hard to understand for younger people. Like Aomori is a place in Japan. It's northwest Japan, north of Tokyo, and they have a very interesting dialect that is hard for people to understand from a lot of parts of Japan. And then Okinawa too it's an island, right? And the old Okinawans, they have a really interesting dialect that is basically impossible for people to understand from Honshu, which is like the main Japanese island. So
that's very interesting.
For the most part, though, like normal kind of current internet Japanese, people totally understand each other. I think it has actually more understandable dialects than other countries you go to. Like Norway, people understand each other, but it's kind of different. Like there was a point where they were so different that people didn't understand each other at all. And they actually have two different versions because of the mountains and like crazy features of the landscape, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things just change over time. Well, look at Switzerland. Like they have, or not, Switzerland. I almost said Swiss because that's how you say it in Japanese. But in Switzerland, they have entirely different language. They use German, or they use Italian, or they use what's the other one? There's one more. French. There's three or four, right?
Man.
Different languages, and they have their own like dialects too within that.
Wow, that sounds so complicated.
Which is insane. In the same country. I remember so my professor was Swiss. One of my professors at Tokyo Tech, he was Swiss, and he spoke Japanese as well. He was really, really like beyond comprehension smart. But he would obviously teach the class in English, so you knew English perfectly. And it was a programming class, so it was like really, really technical stuff. So he knew English perfectly. He knew French perfectly. He knew probably a little bit of German and probably a little bit of Italian because he's Swiss. Mm-hmm. But then he also knew Japanese, right? Because he was living in Japan. And so that was crazy. And then there was another Swiss student, which was one of my like classmates and friends.
Mm-hmm.
He was also Swiss, but his native language was German. So there's like German Swiss, Italian Swiss, and then French Swiss.
Wow.
And right. And then so my professor, he had a French accent. So he's from Switzerland. So the two people in the class from Switzerland, they're both from Switzerland. One has a French accent. It's just like the Canadians, right? The Canadians have the French Canadians and the I don't know, European Canadian or whatever, English Canadians or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have sort of like a normalish, sort of American sounding accent minus a couple words like O's and stuff. And so they, other than the French Canadians, they actually sound French, right? They have like a French sort of accent, especially the stronger accented people, like in Quebec. So it's the same type of thing. Like they had, so my friend had like a German sounding accent, more kind of English sounding, where my teacher had a really, really strong like French accent. It was super strange.
That's really funny. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. In Japan, cool. It's typically a little bit different, but again, like talking to older people in Japan, if you like travel around Japan and then you talk to older people, they all sound different. It's really interesting. But the younger people, they all kind of, it's like if you go to the Midwestern United States, or really just anywhere around the United States, the younger people kind of all sound the same.
Yeah, it is interesting.
They might have, like, if you go to South, there might be some younger people who have some stronger accents. You might notice their accent a little bit, but not really. I think it's weird.
Our language is pretty...
It's really weird.
It's pretty normalized.
Now, yeah. If you talk to older people, though, they still got that...
Yeah, there are some other words, like there's like the soda and pop thing. Like there's just little things like that.
There are words and sayings and stuff, but if you talk to, so if my mom's side is from Maine, and they're called, their nickname is the Maniacs because everybody thinks,
oh my god,
the New England states, like Maine is the weirdest one. And they love their lobster, but they say the weirdest things. Like my mom says things from her mom, my grandma, and because my grandma and my grandpa grew up there, from what I understand. But maybe they move all around. But but they have sayings that they say over there that are just so strange, and they think it's normal. I don't have a good example off the top of my head.
Oh man!
But I know I'll come back next time with one because it's so odd. Because my mom will just suddenly say something, and I'm like, wait, that's. She's like, yeah, this. I'm like, what? Like I've never heard that before in my life. She's like, really? And then I look it up, and it's like specifically from Maine, people say these type of things.
That's so funny.
It's really funny, yeah. And then I'll only hear that from her side, yeah. And then my dad's side's more of like, I don't know. They say more. My grandma said some really interesting things on my dad's side, but for the most part, it's like the Maniacs, the New England stuff is definitely a lot weirder. So I think, which is interesting.
It is.
Yeah. But for the most part, people understand each other in Japan. If you learn one way of speaking Japanese, people will understand you. The reason people learn, Tokyo Japanese, Kanto Japanese, is because it's well understood across all of Japan. So no matter where you really go, if you want to live in one place though, and they speak a certain way, obviously you're going to pick up on the way that they speak.
Yeah.
And if you come in, especially if you're more Japanese looking, people will sort of be maybe a little bit taken aback or like a little bit off. What's the way to say that? Surprised if you don't speak. It's like all based on how you look. If you look like you're foreign, then they don't care. Like they don't expect you to speak Japanese at all, right? They expect you to only speak English. And that's what's funny sometimes is that a lot of people, will come to Japan and they're not native English speakers. English is their third language or fourth language, or maybe they don't hardly. I assume if they're going to Japan, they know a little bit of English. But it's funny to see that because I've seen that a couple of times where Japanese people would go to like a foreign person who doesn't speak any English or like hardly any English. Mm-hmm. They speak, but they speak a little bit of Japanese. And the Japanese people will just assume they don't speak any Japanese and only try to speak to them in English. And the people are like, and then they'll try to speak Japanese with them. And then the Japanese person will just not get in their head that they're speaking Japanese to them. Like just because of how they look, they're just English. And it's just really funny to see them try to communicate with each other where the foreign person speaks pretty decent, if not really good, Japanese with the Japanese person just because of that. Which is interesting when you're trying to speak over the phone because there's none of that.
Because you don't,
There's none of that. And even like over here too, when you're talking to somebody over the phone, like a call center person or whatever, sometimes it takes a couple sentences, maybe like a couple minutes into the conversation to be like, oh, this person is not a native English speaker. Right? Same thing with a Japanese conversation, like over the phone, you'll start speaking and then they'll be like saying these really difficult things. And then you have to like, break it down a little bit and they'll be like, oh, this person's not Japanese. And then they'll, say it more simply, a little bit more casual, probably.
Nice.
So it's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Talking on the phone too in a different language is always interesting. Let's go ahead and read Pastel Kazoku. Let's read through it quickly. I went way over with my rant there. It wasn't really a rant, but do you think that you can go through this quickly, or do you want me to try to go through it?
I'll try going through it, and if I take too long, then you can take over. Let me figure out where we were.
I have it at the Koneko no Ume.
Oh, there's the May again.
Yeah. The fate of the kitten. Ume is like fate.
Okay. Koneko. Oh, who is this? Is this a new character?
This is the friend, I think.
Okay.
Friend of the middle child sister.
Koneko. Koneko, right? And then who's this? Is this also Ko?
Chisai.
Oh yeah, Chisai kute. What's that?
Kawaii.
Oh, kawaii no maoi kedo. Oh,
Maai kedo.
Maai kedo. Kei-chan ga I don't know that.
Kei-chan ga katte kureru tte.
Maybe you should take over.
Okay. Yeah. So katte. So Kei-chan ga katte kureru tte. So katte is kao is to it means to take care of like an animal. It means to adopt or it means to adopt basically. Adopt an animal. Kei-chan is a friend, I guess. This girl.
Yeah.
すげえ。2分で決めちゃがった。決めやがった。Oh, sorry. So what happened to the cat? I don't even remember. Oh, there was like a kitten sleeping or something outside.
The guys were gonna mess with it, and he like.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Like beat him up.
でも、怪我は、うちで直してあげたいよね。So, うちで、うち also means, house, right?
Yeah.
So, 家 or うち means house. But again, it could also mean the personal pronoun for me, like 私.
Yeah.
Feminine.
Why is this in katakana?
It just makes it easier to distinguish between the hiragana around it. Like you see keiga too. Keiga could be kanji. They're using that because it's easier to read. They're really common like books and especially manga and more like less formal things. They'll use just katakana to separate it so it's easy to read. Yeah, so うちで直してあげたいよね。その間ぐらいなら、親父, I think, so what that means. 親父 is just like father. 親父も OK 出すだろう。OK 出すだろう。Like he's gonna probably say, OK. The dad. 名前は何にしようか。マフィンマーガレットそれは飼い主につけさせてやれよ。Let's have the owner put the name on. This is like really timely, by the way, because we were fostering a dog right now.
That's so funny.
Like literally yesterday, this is our day. Trying to figure out yesterday and the day before, I was trying to figure out what we're gonna do. So,
did you? I'll talk about it later.
Unme, fate. Sayonara. That's sunset. Jeez.
Wow, look at that. He looks very.
別れが辛いのはわかるがしょうがねえ。So, she's leaving. So, 別れが辛いのはわかるけどしょうがねえ。I know it's hard that so 別れ is like splitting up. 辛い is like painful. 辛いのはわかるけどしょうがねえ。Like, しょうがない is, you know, しょうがねえ is just like the more common sort of masculine way to say しょうがない. It's like it can't be helped. You know, あの子のところならきっと幸せになれるさ。If it's that girl's place, you know, Kito is like surely that cat will live happily. 幸せ。
Nice.
ニャンゴローゲなんでお前が泣いてんだ飼い主さん。So ケイちゃん、もうね、子猫ちゃんのことを飼ってる。She's now adopting this cat, right? 兄おいで。兄。えニャンゴローゲ来る。ニャンゴローゲ So not responding to 兄。Yeah. ニャンゴローゲSo that was the end. That was the main point of this. 77,000, geez. People really like this.
Likes.
So this is Judy. So they didn't want to, they were going to have another person adopt. They were just watching. They're just fostering the dog. Not dog, sorry, cat.
No, that's you.
That's a Freudian slip right there. They're watching the cat. And so she put the Nyangoroge. That's funny. Nyangoroge. She's like all ... I
was hoping that wasn't the case.
That's funny. All right. Until next time, we're gonna read the next next one, which is
3.
Third one.
Oh no, he got us.
Interesting.
Oh, spoilers.
Yeah.
It was a good one.
Good one. But the old bookstore, that was a good one. Let's we're going a little bit long, so we'll probably skip the conversation practice. Oh yeah, I see you have some recommendations for tools and podcasts.
Yeah, we'll have that. Those are the links you wanted me to put for you.
Yeah, Breath of the Castle Ballad. Korczak is probably the Polish person, right?
Yeah. I had to look that up. I could not figure it out.
Kusa no Hakobune Grassark. Interesting. These are songs, right?
Yeah, they're not for everyone though. They're very long.
Oh.
And
okay. They're more classical or something?
Yeah, I would say.
They seem very dramatic, just by the
names.
They
are dramatic. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool.
Yeah. All right.
That's how we ended it out.
It's time to wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoy. I know we do. We do every time, so.
Yeah. It's always good catching up every week. Mm-hmm. It's always fun to practice a little Japanese and send each other off into the sunset to all become perfect Japanese speakers. Or at least to strive to be.
Exactly. Perfect. Shoot for the stars.
Shooting! Alright,
guys.
Jenny! Bye bye!
See ya!